This is your before and after story, where your first steps towards a new life-changing career begin. Southeastern College can take you there. We offer in-demand hybrid and online programs with hands-on training, led by in-field career professionals, and career services to put you on the path to a rewarding and fulfilling future. This is where your transformation begins. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hi.
Dave, we are back. We are post Royal Rumble. It's kind of like the wrestling fan first kickoff of the year, right? You know, like it's first big event.
Sense.
You know, like get all the juices flowing, the road to WrestleMania. It was a lot of fun. We did a lot of cool stuff for Royal Rumble this year too. So a little different. We have our live situation happening now. A couple of extra videos around Royal Rumble. Hope everyone is not tired of the wrestling figure content, because we're going to be headed in that direction again today.
Yeah, Eric, famous for not burying leads.
Yeah, but of course I'm gonna not bury the lead just for a couple moments while we take care of just a little bit of housekeeping. January giveaway, we selected our winner. The Biker Mice from Mars Sports Bros are off to their recipient. So thank you everybody for entering.
They are indeed.
And this month's giveaway is live. So Veterus Rap Hacks, the bloodied sword and sorcery. I think I actually have one over here. I can hold it up while I'm talking about it. So from our friends at Savage Crucible. So
really cool.
Yeah, this figure is dope. I think this might actually be my favorite release of theirs yet.
I saw us announce it and I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah, this thing is really cool.
One.
He's got all this like fun blood deco all over his like mandibles and his hands.
I like that he's like a cross between something from Masters of the Universe and something like and a member of Gwar.
It's a great call. And you know what? He does have that orange and green deco on him that is very Battle Cat like.
So, yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
definitely having some rad Battle Cat vibes.
We of course have had the folks from Savage Crucible on the show. They were kind enough to send us out a sample, both to take a look at. So you can obviously see that here as well as on our Instagram account. But you can also enter to win yourself one, and this is a really cool figure. We really like what Savage Crucible is up to. They're doing a really cool twist on that kind of like fantasy sword and sorcery vibe, 1/12 scale figure. But yeah, you can enter to win one throughout the month. Just visit us on Instagram at AIC_podcast. You will find a pinned post on our profile where you can follow the instructions and enter to win yourself a Veterus Rapax. I just like saying Veterus Rapax. It's got a good it rolls off the tongue.
Like you could definitely hear like William Shatner having fun with that too.
I was gonna make a fall on your sword joke about why is Veterus Rapax climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain?
That's an old one.
But that's a real throwback, right? That was Fall on Your Sword, I think was the name.
That was the name of the act. Yeah.
But again, really, really cool figure you have throughout the month. Shorter month, so you only got 28 days to enter for that. So make use of your time.
And you're already a few days gone. So if you haven't entered yet,
we're coming up on Valentine's Day, so we're reaching that halfway point. Other piece of news is next month. God, it's already in next month. Next month is a busy month for Adventures in Collecting. We will be at Toy Fair covering it live March 1st and 2nd, Saturday and Sunday. So we will be at the Javits Center checking out all the cool things that people will have on display. And this is gonna be a packed Toy Fair, Dave, because it's like full
Everybody's back.
full boat. We
Yeah,
got
Mattel, Hasbro, everybody.
Hasbro, Jazzwares, Bandai,
Playmates.
all the folks, Spin Master. They're all going to be there. So it's going to be a lot of
Isn't
fun.
Major also there?
We have to check with Canic, but I think they might be there.
I think they are
in some capacity, and by some capacity I mean that may just be Canic roaming around, or he may have a booth. I don't know. We have to.
They said something about that.
We gotta. Well, we'll
confirm.
Yeah, we'll confirm that. But yeah, so that's the 1st and 2nd of March, and then March 29th. So we have our second ever live recorded Adventures in Collecting. So we did one a couple years ago. Live 2. Are we can't call it live 2. We can't we can't rip off our friends.
The gimmick,
no.
Should we say issue 2? Episode 2?
Second edition. Why don't we go second edition?
Because it's ZapCon, so it's got to be comic related.
Yeah. Right? So we'll go second edition.
The second printing.
As Dave mentioned, it is ZapCon, so our favorite comic book shop in the entire world, and definitely the best in New Jersey. Our friends at Zap Comics are hosting their annual ZapCon event. And yes, we will be recording live. So you have the opportunity, if you're in the tri-state area and you feel like taking a trip out to Wayne, New Jersey, the $10 gets you in. There's going to be a ton of comics, a ton of vendors, artists. You can get some cool stuff signed. You can buy probably some original art and or sketches. And one of those artists, a friend of the pod, Chris Ramo, who is an amazing artist, also happens to be the packaging designer at NECA Toys. So we convinced him and a fellow friend of the pod and fellow NECA designer Blaine at Blainer Things. They will be our live guests for the podcast. So we'll be talking NECA, we'll be talking design, we'll be talking packaging design, art. We'll do a live Q&A if people come.
We'll probably talk about things that have nothing to do with any of that as well.
Yeah, knowing them,
we have a tendency to do.
Knowing them, we'll talk about horror and Disney and Tiki and all, maybe even hairstyles. Usually hairstyles come up with when we're talking to Blaine. Broadway, who knows? There's lots.
I was gonna say musical theater, wrestling, it's all out there.
Yeah, lots and lots of options. So, and who knows? Maybe surprises. I'm actually saying that because they might surprise us. We don't know. This is literally
we might surprise ourselves.
You can find out live. So you can go to zapconnj.com and you can get your tickets in advance. And they are, like I said, they are $10, and we would love. And
if you're local, I think you can go to Zap to get them as well.
Yes, you can just go to Zap Comics, Valley Road in Wayne, New Jersey. So, definitely looking forward to that. I think with the giveaway and the live show announcement out of the way, I think I can finish burying the lead, and we can bring on our guest here.
I think you can, Eric.
So this is our second week in a row of our second episode in a row of new friends. We're making new friends.
Yes,
on Collecting. We're collecting new friends. That's what we are currently collecting. Today's guest is someone who's blending nostalgia with a deep exploration of the psyche behind collections. Really, he's doing something that we all are dreaming about doing with just about every purchase. Matthew Roman, the founder of NOWHOME, has created a truly unique space, a toy museum nestled inside his New York City apartment, dedicated to preserving and celebrating the treasures of Japanese pop culture from years past. Founded in 2018, NOWHOME isn't just a collection. It is an immersive experience that dives into the emotional and psychological connection we have with the things we collect. Whether it's vintage toys or the way design intersects with memory, Matt's work is reshaping how we think about collecting on a personal and cultural level. We're excited to have him here today to talk about his passion, his vision, and how he's bringing the past into the present, one collectible at a time. Matt, welcome to Adventures in Collecting.
Woo! New friends. Thank you, Dave and Eric, for having me.
Dude, this is exciting.
Happy to have you. Yeah.
We've been following you for a long time, and we're big fans
Absolutely.
of what you've put together and what you've built. And honestly, it's kind of been like an enigmatic thing. Like, we didn't know who was behind Now Home, and then you posted that very incredible. We're gonna plug this right up front. Very incredible video that you did, where you toured your museum, and we were absolutely floored. The pictures that you post on like a regular basis just don't do it justice seeing it all. And people are getting if you're watching on YouTube, you're getting a nice glimpse of it behind Matt there. But
Yep.
yeah, we're super excited to have you here, brother.
Thank you so much, man. No, that's super flattering. I gotta have you guys over at the museum sometime.
Definitely. Yeah, we're just right across the Hudson there. So we got to make our way over. So our first question that we ask all of our guests before we kind of dive in, as this is a show about collecting, what are you currently collecting? And now you could answer this any way that you want, whether it's what are you collecting for the museum or what are you collecting for your own personal collection. It's totally up to you.
Okay. Currently I'm kind of juggling the three ball act of trying to keep up to date with what WWE and Mattel are doing. So I'm definitely in the hole for some pre-orders there, waiting for those to land hopefully in March. Outside of that, I don't know if many people know this, but I do collect Warhammer 40K.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, I just had there's a faction called the Death Corps Krieg. So I just got that box in, and I just got to find the time to paint it.
So do you stay with the miniatures, or do you do like the Joy Toy and the McFarlane? And
I want to get into the Joy Toy. The McFarlane I'm kind of like meh about, but the miniatures are like where my heart's at for sure. Yeah, I can show one real quick. This one, I know not everyone's going to see this, but that's the headless Space Marine.
Oh, that's really cool.
But that's been a lot of fun, just going a little deeper than just displaying, like spending time crafting and painting.
Yeah,
I love
that's a whole different world.
Yeah, I have some friends who do it, and like they'll go from like kind of doing what you see either in like the video games or anything like that to just completely going off the wall. So I like that that is part of the Warhammer kind of, I guess, experience.
Yeah, so it's such a huge universe, and you can, whether it is like the Joy Toy or the Space Marine game that came out, it's a lot of fun, a lot of lore, and a lot of nerdiness that gets me excited.
Yeah, see, I've seen some people do some interesting like colorways where like, they'll do like Boba Fett colors, or they'll do like odes to different, or homages to different IP, in like the paint scheme on them. It's just it's something that I can't even wrap my head around. I don't think I could paint my way out of let me put it this way. I could barely put a coat of paint on a wall, let alone paint something that's like this big. So
I was poor at coloring as a kid. So
staying inside the lines, both metaphorically and physically, is not something I'm good at.
But yeah, those are like the two main focuses, and then I love soft vinyl toys, whether it's the vintage kind of kaiju stuff as well as like the designer art toy, if you will.
Yep.
There's so much there, and I feel like that's one of kind of like the pushing art forms in terms of toy collecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like each piece you get to like really take home something very hand painted, handcrafted most of the time.
Yeah, I just watched this. I wish I could remember the name of the YouTube channel. It's like they're like these little short, maybe like 8 to 10 minute stories, and they happen to do one on like the Sofubi, like factory, like the one that's like the most famous. I'm gonna try to find the name of it real quick because I know exactly who I sent it to. I just have to find the message. But it's like this 10-minute video, and it was just like riveting stuff. Let me see if I can find it super quick. I know exactly who I sent it to. I just gotta find it. But yeah, it's something it's something along the lines of like one short story or something like that.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah, we
make
could post
these.
it too.
Yeah, we'll have to put a link to it, but they
Yeah.
go into the process of like, kind of where the art form came from, how it
Mhm.
developed over the years. Um, Here it is. Great Big Adventure is the name of the
Okay.
channel, and it's the Maru.
Mauer-san?
Yes, it goes into the Marathon
Yeah.
factory, and one of the artists that's been this 86-year-old Sofubi painter that has been hand painting kaiju and
Goto-san.
yes.
I'm like dying to meet that man.
Um,
He's so cool.
they cover so much ground in a
short
oh my
period of
god,
time.
it's
Yeah.
literally 9 minutes long, and they should make a full length documentary. It was so fascinating. I'll make sure that I put a link to it in the description of this episode so
Yeah,
everyone can watch it.
I got to check it out if I haven't seen it already.
Yeah, and
But
I'll
that
send it over
sounds
to you.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt, why did you start NowHome? Like, what led to the idea of just
Ooh.
putting together a museum?
Yeah. Loaded question. So with the founding of Noun Home, a lot of that kind of had to do with like filling voids in my collection. And we're in certainly like an age where shipping is probably the main form of people getting their hands on things. But as I'm sure you both know, like toy shops aren't so prominent in New York City anymore. And I'm all about the thrill of the hunt. And I feel like I was going to a lot of places where, they would have kind of the same selections. And when I would maybe find that one or two random like Japanese piece, I was always so curious to like learn more and just like, damn, like I want to buy this, but like, do I deserve to have it if I don't know what it is? And like, just kind of pulling the trigger on like, really like the soft vinyl stuff is like, damn, I just dropped $150, but I don't know this guy's name. And as I start to explore those things further, I realize I'm like, whoa, there's a pretty big gap of context that we're kind of missing out on just like very particular niche subjects. And I was like, cool, like this is a opportunity for me to like showcase my collections, learn more, and potentially kind of like pass that information along to the public. So opening the conversation.
Yeah, and I mean that's like we just said. I mean there's a
Mhm.
9-minute documentary on on the art form itself, and I've been a toy collector my entire life, and while I'm aware of Sofubi and soft vinyl toys, like I didn't know that so many of them were individually hand painted. Like that was
And
like
mostly the same factory, or
yeah.
like the good ones are the same
Mm-hmm.
factory. Like,
Going back to an earlier episode of of our show, we were fortunate enough to have Brian Flynn from Super 7
Oh,
on,
sick.
and he explained to us, because we asked him like, when's the next Mummy Boy coming? When they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of like their art toys, right?
Yeah.
And he was explaining that Sofubi has gotten so popular again that there are only so many factories that do it the
Mm-hmm.
real way, that are doing it the right way, that are, kind of honoring the art form that you want. If you do it and, you want to do it right, you have to wait.
Yeah.
There's a waiting list, and there's a whole, cultural aspect to it where, he's running an American company and trying to do a Japanese art form. And if there are Japanese companies that are, they take precedent over Super 7. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just it's interesting how the whole culture of the art form
Yeah.
works, and to see like, a museum dedicated to such a fun part of that that culture is just it's fascinating. Very fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, that toy culture runs deep, and there's so much information you can find out there, but I think a lot of people miss a big chunk. But I know it's being spoken about now how essentially toys was the first import for Japan post World War II, and the Japanese produced the first Barbie toy. I believe that was celluloid, but then because celluloid's so flammable, it changes to vinyl. And like there's like hints of that culture spread throughout all toy history if you're like looking for it. And that's super fascinating to me.
So a big part of your collection and what you have on display at NowHome is Japanese wrestling. So
Mm-hmm.
what was your gateway into Japanese wrestling, just kind of in general?
Yeah. So I'm a 90s baby. Grew up watching Monday Night Wars, of course, channel flipping, fighting with my two older brothers. Like, I want to watch WWF or WCW. And I would say the probably two wrestlers I remember the most was like Taka Michinoku on WWF, like with the light heavyweight championship and like Kai and Tai. But then also seeing like Jushin Thunder Liger on WCW blew my mind. And I think that just opened up a wormhole for me. And then, like, as the internet slowly started creeping, like more matches out, it just became like digging through a gold mine to just try to find more information. And like rediscovering the Great Buddha was a big moment for me. And I don't know. I don't want to say I prefer Japanese wrestling, but there is a level of like athleticism, realism, as well as just kind of like the hints of Japanese pop culture that you'll find on certain characters, and that like really stood with me.
Dude, it's so funny because like everything you just said is exactly how I
Mm-hmm.
feel about like me personally. Like my favorite current wrestlers are like Shinsuke Nakamura, which his
Nice.
autobiography, by the way, is fantastic. Thank you, Dave, for getting that for me.
Oh.
You're welcome.
But like Shinsuke Nakamura, I'm staring at my Kairi Sane figure that just arrived from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like Asuka,
Mhm.
what you said, like Kai and Tai. We were at Hammerstein Ballroom, just a few weeks ago, and I finally got to see Tajiri for the first time in person. Tanaka. There's just
Masato
Salt and
Tanaka
pepper
was
to
there. Yeah.
Jerry.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
But that dude could still go. He's
Could
he's
still
still
do the
Yeah.
doing
handspring.
the handspring off the
Mhm.
ropes and the tarantula. Like it's,
Yeah.
but to your point, like being of that generation, because I was born in '88, so I'm right there. Grew up through the '90s, and watching like Power Rangers and wrestling, and like
Yeah.
it's just there was so much of that. We'll get into it a little bit later, but like the
Okay.
tokusatsu aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just has always resonated with me for some reason, whether it's just like the visual, the aesthetic. So it's fun to hear like literally that same reflection.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, like for me, like the first person I remember seeing was Muda. Like,
Yeah.
and Muda and Sting and all that. Like it was just wild. So then all of a sudden you
Dude.
start to see like you know um Bull Nakano in WWF and WWF at the time, and it is this like culture where it's like I heard about it, and really I didn't get into like Japanese wrestling as a whole until college when it was I was born in 81, so college we're talking like 99, we're talking Attitude Era, but so people started showing up like Liger and all them in WCW, but also like seeing people in ECW from FMW and all that, so like
Yeah.
Hayabusa and all the Kaientai wrestlers. All it was like kind of a good time or a different time to get in, because now you're seeing it was Four Pillars and all that stuff too over in Japan.
Dude, all that era of All Japan is so like mint. Like it's behind a glass window when I think of it. Just like some of the best wrestling out there. With the ECW stuff too, I did catch some of that. I don't know if either of you got to like watch MNN, I think it's Manhattan News Network. It was like a local channel. and ECW would like randomly come on from there. I don't know if like
We'd get
there's
it
a
on
different
MSG.
channel.
Yeah, for us it was
I mean,
MSG.
okay.
Yeah.
No way. That's cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, that era of wrestling is awesome. And I feel like we're finally hitting a time period where the general public is like catching on to all that stuff that went down in like late 90s, early 2000s. I'm stoked to see it.
So, what goes behind the decision to list something in the museum shop?
Really, I think at its core, it breaks down to just finding things and what is available. But then going deeper is about, for me, it's about like storytelling, curating. So wrestling probably makes its rounds the most in the gift shop. But like as an example, I'm sitting on like a decent collection of Kinnikuman stuff that I want to dive into and really like showcase, storytell. And also like I've never finished that anime or read the manga. So I'm like learning as I go. But that's like a collection I'm pretty passionate about bringing out. And I just feel like I can't do it the service I want to if I don't acquire kind of like a whole hoard of it to really give a better representation of like all the different figures that came out, different play sets, etc. So it's yeah.
So do you use the gift shop to like, as almost kind of like overflow to get some stuff back out into the market, but also, kind of fund filling the gaps in the collections that are kind of on display in the museum?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I do because I feel like I get requests all the time. Before I actually opened the gift shop publicly, I was doing a little bit of private selling, just from people hitting me up on Instagram, like, "Oh my God, where did you find this?" And just helping them fill out their collections. As it's grown, I sometimes will try to like buy specifically for the gift shop. Maybe it's something I already have in my collection, or I'm also running out of space, so maybe maybe I can just part ways with it. And I also I'm like, it's tough to do, but I'm becoming more comfortable with like, cool, let me document this, showcase it, and I can part ways with it. There's another happy home waiting for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one of, regardless of whether or not you have a museum or just a very large collection. I think we're a lot of us are reaching that point where it's like, space is truly a premium, and space is like legitimately physically a premium in New York City. So
Oh man, I'm like, yeah, that's like a whole whirlwind of a conversation there too. I mean, is it? I think New York's still the most expensive city in the country.
in the country, yes. Not technically not. I don't think it's continent anymore. I think Toronto has New York City
Really?
these days, but
it's close though.
It's close. It's definitely the most expensive city to live in the United States. That's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely makes things tough, but I'm like all about my nerdiness. I will maybe not drink that coffee at that cafe so I can get an extra figure.
And we all make sacrifices.
My favorite thing was always just seeing what would pop up in there and then be like, upset at myself that I was like working at the time when something would disappear, and I'd be like,
that's a bummer.
Yeah,
but
but it's also one of those things where it's like, and I think that's the fun of collecting is like, the question of where does it end, and the answer is it doesn't. Like there's always something new or different, or you want to dip your toe in something and have some part of it representative that doesn't exist otherwise.
It's tough too, because I feel like we all collect so many different things, and everyone's collection has turned from like one license per se into like a viewing gallery of all your interests. And it's hard to like pick a lane sometimes.
And the other thing too is, you're never the only person looking for something. Like that's always the other fun part is like, for every 5 people that like something, there's like 10 more right behind you that also think it's the coolest thing on the planet. So that's the other
Yeah.
fun part.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of just for just for fun, I hopped on a whatnot stream last night. That was what was the name of the shop? I want to say it was like Kayfabe Toys or Kayfabe Figures or something like that. And they were doing
Hmm.
dollar elites to start with,
What?
like starting bids, and it just blew my mind at like some of the ones that came up and like what they ended up going up to for like a loose, incomplete, in good shape. Like it wasn't like something that was like gross or anything, but like
Mhm.
a loose, incomplete, um, Magnum
Early elite.
TA,
Yeah.
went for like $60, and I was just like, whoa,
Wow.
oh my god, like just
Yeah.
watching it go up in the 30-second bid window was just insane.
Because over the past few years, like there are fewer of them out there
Yeah,
now.
yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom and pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at their brand new home at 101 Newark Pompton Turnpike, Suite 1 in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at chubzywubsy.com. That's CHUBZYWUBZZY.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you.
And now, back to the show.
I want to ask you a question if that's okay.
Yeah,
How do you feel about like those market values? Although I feel like specifically for wrestling, we're in that kind of stage where we're seeing the re-releases come through.
Hmm.
But for me, I'm kind of like waiting out for those guys I missed.
same. So
So for a lot of them, like once I saw Punk not be in AEW anymore, I was like, all right, he's coming back. So like,
yeah, and I mean some of the like I have to hold out hope, and I think it's the one that probably ranks most on most ranks highest on most people's lists is like Legion of Doom, Road Warriors. Like at some
Yep.
point, at some like their estate, the estates of Hawk and Animal, they're signing deals with other companies. Like shouts
Mhm.
to
mhm.
the major Collect Major. Their big rubber guys are gorgeous, but like I think everyone would love to see like a Coliseum Collection 2-pack of Animal and Hawk.
Yeah, like an ultimate Road
Yeah,
Warriors. That
like
would
Mhm.
it,
rule.
it would just be amazing. So and at this point, the technology of even the elites, those
Demolition. Yeah.
yeah, Demolition, that what was that they were like a Matty collector release, I think, too,
Mhm.
right? Demolition, or were they like Legend
They
Series
were
1?
early Legends, and then Crush was like just a regular flashback series.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't remember that.
it would just as somebody who opens them and enjoys them and likes to pose them and photograph them, I think everybody should have a crack at getting these figures, and I think they've been really smart about re-releasing the figures in a different presentation to respect both people who keep them mint on card. Like a perfect example is that the bald, the shaved head Punk figure, right? The straight edge
Mhm.
society one that they recently re-released. It's in a different package. It's also packed out differently. I think he has the mask
Mhm.
on or off, whatever the original one didn't have. So there's still like people like me who just want to open it and shoot it and kind of have those moments. It doesn't affect the value of that original release.
And it also has like the new printing, face
Yeah,
printing on, like
new
so.
Yeah,
articulation.
Yeah,
So
some upgrades. Mhm.
I'm all about holding out on certain things. I mean,
if it's somebody with a Legends deal, like wait.
yeah, like I know people would have said like even as early as like a year ago that like, oh, if you missed out on Brian Pillman, forget it. Like go back and get the old one. And it's like,
Hmm. And the family just resigned.
especially with his son being in AEW at the time, and it's like now his son's on NXT, and they have a Legends deal, and the Hollywood Blondes Pillman's coming out imminently.
go.
You know, like he's up for pre-order. So, I mean, I would say unless you're looking to have like a piece of like the line's history by going back and getting something, you know, old that's mint on card, and you know whether you're considering it an investment piece or, you know, just like a sentimental piece that you want to keep mint.
Or if it's like you really want a gold dust,
Yeah, like hold
Yeah.
off.
or
You
you
know,
really want the Malenko.
because I think one day too, like somebody like you know, like Dustin, once he's done with AEW, like I don't know. I have to imagine that somewhere down the line he's going in the Hall of Fame, and as long
Yeah.
as Mattel still has the license,
Hmm.
you know, he'll sign some sort
There's
of
money on the table
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
So switching gears from wrestling for a moment, we've also seen a fair amount of tokusatsu show up in the museum and the gift shop. What drew you to franchises like Ultraman and Kamen Rider?
Ooh, I would say I was more into Kamen Rider first, and it's something I've seen around in the toy form, just sculptures of it. And then I want to say Kamen Rider V3. I think I was at like Toy Tokyo, and I just purchased a vintage Bandai one. And the more time I spent with it and just posing, then that led me to just picking up more. And then I think Toei's YouTube channel, they had the first, like, I don't know, 20 to 40 episodes, and I became hooked. Because I grew up watching Godzilla, Gamera. I wasn't the biggest Power Rangers kid, but for those who don't know, that was
Yep.
primarily inspired by Kamen Rider. And I feel like if you like Power Rangers, and maybe if you like the style and humor of like Adam West Batman, that Kamen Rider fits right in there. Is like a perfect blend between those two. And like, I don't know if you use this, but I have a category called "So Bad It's Good,"
Oh yeah.
and like
Mm-hmm.
that first season of Kamen Rider is so up there. Really like the first 13 episodes, but
That's how I feel about Toy
yeah.
Spider-Man. I put it in that
Yeah.
category of like
Mm-hmm.
this would, if you didn't have any context, this would be dreadful, but with the context, it's like this is the most incredible thing ever. I could watch every
Yeah.
episode of this. I throw it on like it's like comfort food.
Yeah, that's perfect. I couldn't have said that better. But then Ultraman. So I have a friend named Eric that I've done some toy shows with in the past, and he's like the Ultraman nerd. And just like spending time at his place, he has almost, I want to say, the good majority of like Bullmark figures there. He's also like a jumbo machine deer collector. So that every time I spend time with him, I just get like super itchy. We end up like watching a couple episodes, and just at the end of the night, we always just end up on like eBay or something and making some silly purchases.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that there's all those shows now are on like Tubi and stuff too. Or no,
and that's right.
Pluto.
yeah,
There's some
Ultraman's on Pluto, I think.
I remember Ultraman was once on Tubi. That's how I got to like finish Ultra Q. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, I know it's on one of those. I've definitely dabbled at some point, but
Yeah,
even the newer stuff is fun.
well, I
So
haven't really given the newer stuff that big a try yet.
it's all on YouTube. It's all on the Ultraman
Yeah,
YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm like so stuck in Showa.
we we got to see at, I want to say it was Anime NYC.
No, it was a Comic-Con. It was
Comic-Con.
a New York Comic-Con, not this past one, the one prior.
Yeah, that's right. We got to see like a live Ultraman battle in one
Yeah.
of the
What?
like Ultraman fighting a bunch of different kaiju, and there was like,
It was for Blazar, I think.
yes, yeah, Ultraman
No
Blazar.
way.
It was
I
wild.
missed that. I was at that Comic-Con.
It was not so. Shouts to our friends at Bandai who did an
It
amazing
was
job.
just a Sunday panel. Like it was just a random
It
Sunday
was
panel.
listed as a panel, and I think it was listed as like an Ultraman live panel, but
Mhm.
like the description was not like come watch Ultraman beat up kaiju. It was like learn about the new Ultraman. So it was kind of like an unadvertised surprise. I think
Mhm.
the room was pretty packed. I mean, like was definitely like
Oh,
standing
yeah.
room, but I think people were expecting it just to be like, oh, the actors who are in Ultraman, they had some of the voice actors who were doing the English dubs there, and but then the performers came out in the suits from the show, and it was really cool to see them battle on a
Yeah,
stage.
it was wild.
It was awesome. Yeah,
That's sick.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you mostly get your acquire the pieces for the museum or for your collection on trips to Japan, or do you have? And I know not spilling any secrets, but do you get to stuff without travel?
So I do get to things without travel, but I would say the bulk core collections, whether it is the tokusatsu figures I've imported or the wrestling guys, actually come from my trips to Japan. I was last there in May. Actually I proposed to my wife who's Japanese out there on
Oh,
that trip.
Oh, nice!
congratulations!
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Shout out to Ayumi. But then with my wife being Japanese, she is my cheat code for Google searching things. But I want to say maybe 2017 when I like started getting really heavy into collecting the Japanese wrestling figures. There was a seller I had met on eBay who was just offloading his collection, and we just kind of developed a relationship. Eventually, took that off of eBay, and I was buying a lot of wrestling figures primarily from him. And then in my last trip, there was a collector I met in Osaka that I still keep in touch with. And just opening up those relationships. I think also the Japanese people are very excited that there are interests outside of their country for like these older things that they thought maybe was just purely nostalgia for themselves. So just being able to have that conversation with them, it kind of opens up the lanes for me to bring in more goods.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. I mean, Japanese culture has really arguably never been more popular to a global audience
Yeah.
as it is today.
For sure.
Why do you, as somebody who's made the travel back and forth, and as somebody who has
Mhm.
curated the collection that you have, why do you think that there's this sudden surge, and over the past say even like 10 years,
Yeah.
such a surge in popularity?
I think America and Japan has kind of had this ongoing conversation, specifically post World War II, where we might not think of it in our day to day, but from the foods we eat, the clothes we wear, all the nerdy things we collect, there's kind of like always been a conversation on both ends. But in my opinion, I think especially like we're in the age of the internet, social media, etc. I think we're kind of approaching this singularity of having access to that and having access to that information, but it's being shared on either side. Because like if for me as like a New Yorker, fashion dude, skateboarder, when I visited Japan, like that passion that I meet on the streets here for those things, it's just the same, if not more, over there. And I think there's just overall like a eagerness, maybe a little shyness too, but then just the exchange. So, but then I mean, to go further into that too, like you have people rediscovering anime for the first time. Like my favorite anime for the past 20 plus years has been Hajime no Ippo, this boxing anime that I actually discovered from like a burned PlayStation 2 video game that I was given.
Hmm.
And that just hit Netflix, I think, last year. So there's like, I'm finally having conversations about that 20 years later with people. And I think it's just finally like, yeah, I don't know, like nerd culture is far more accepted, if you will.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
Yeah.
know?
that's for sure. I mean, I think you mentioned it, and it's almost like funny to say it, but I as I'm wearing a Godzilla Godzilla
Mhm.
eating ramen shirt, I think the food does have like a really big impact on it.
For
Like
sure.
I remember one of the first things that I associated with so I was very fortunate as somebody who loves Japanese culture. I grew up with a friend who was half Japanese, and his cousins were always sending like cool stuff over for us to like watch, whether it was they were recording episodes of or sending over episodes of like Dragon Ball Z before they aired on like Toonami over here, so like we were like cool because we knew what was going to happen before everyone else did. But I think the food has a lot to do with it. And one of the first things that I remember pop culturally was Iron Chef. Watching these original episodes of Iron Chef on like old Food Network when there wasn't
Iron Chef.
when there wasn't a whole lot of like programming. It was basically like Emerald Lagasse and and Iron Chef.
Eventually, we got Rachel Ray.
Yeah. Somebody always comes around to ruin it.
But still love Morimoto to this day. Went to his restaurant in Vegas.
Like I remember when we went to Dave, I think it was when you graduated college.
His first restaurant in Philly.
We went to his restaurant in Philly, and we were like, felt like we were in like the presence of like I don't even know if he was there that day.
He probably was not.
Like felt like we were in like eating in the wake of a celebrity, and it was like. This is the best sushi I've ever had in my entire life. But yeah, I think the food has a lot to do with it in a way, because that's for a lot of people, that's a gateway into the culture. It's like, you go to a restaurant, or you go somewhere like Mitsuya, you go to one of these the markets that has produce you can take home, food court, food that you can eat, and then merch, and you're picking up a model kit here, or, a blind box vinyl toy here, or Godzilla being so prevalent in today's world, as I'm sitting here staring at my
very nice,
my new baby. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's really fascinating, and as somebody who has been a fan of the culture and somebody who's loved the culture for as long as I have, like, it's nice to finally feel normal.
Where you're going to the flea market and finding like where your cousin's making you like a 4th generation dub of like the best of Cactus Jack, which was just the IWA King of the Deathmatch tournament. But
yeah. Or like I don't have to worry about I've got 2 little ones, and we're doing our first ever watch through Dragon Ball, and like she went to school and told her friends that she was watching it. Now her friends are watching it, and like it's like not like a big deal. So like
the next generation.
Great.
There we go. Yeah.
Or even like just an arena full of people wearing Bullet Club shirts to like a WWE show. Like
it's penetrating. It's penetrating the market.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. And like it's cool too, because like that conversation, if you ever make the trip over there, firstly, those things that you mentioned, the food and just the culture, the respect and cleanliness will change your life. But then like, you're just gonna land in the airport at a language or at a country where you might not speak their language, yet you're gonna feel right at home. And they do that so well.
One day I'll get there.
Yeah.
So we talked about the aftermarket briefly, but like how has the surge in popularity really affected the aftermarket for especially things you've listed or things you've been trying to get?
I think it's a double-edged sword, right? I would say specifically on like the tokusatsu vintage vinyl side, that world, it's very layered. So there's people just purely collecting like original hand cast in Japan vinyl, airbrushed, hand painted, etc. And those actually tend to fetch for like a couple $1,000s per piece. But then as you like flash forward from that to like manufacturing, switching from made in Japan to made in China, like early 90s, even late 80s, that stuff, I think it's starting to get its appreciation just for like its aesthetics, but we're seeing the price go up. It's tough importing, where that shipping cost can make a huge impact on that final price. And like even with the Japanese figure market, like you used to be able to buy an Atsushi Onita figure for like 30, $40 on card. And even from those to like, I guess the more grail for most people would be like a Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, or Stan Hansen. I can't find those for like less than $150. And it's tough even to go back to the question before, like, how do I decide to bring what into the gift shop? A lot of that has to do with me not wanting to ask too much for a figure. Like, I'm sure there's people that are willing to pay that top market value, but it's like, it's kind of weird seeing one figure line that maybe you're discovering for the first time, and it's like, why is Ricky Choshu $20? But then this figure of Abdullah the Butcher is like $150 to $250. So it's a weird thing to navigate. But for my personal collections, I've bitten the bullet many times just for the impatience I have sometimes. But yeah, I'm sure I'm honestly expecting with the new international shipping affairs that it's probably going to rise. And, you know, we're all going to be feeling that. And it sucks, but I think we're all aware that's coming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even on our, you know, the stuff that just became $22 isn't going to be $22 anymore.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that is not permanent.
No, I don't think so.
So
that means I just have to take more flights to Japan to bring it back myself.
Yeah, and hey, I can if you need anyone to help carry the bags, let me know. I'll book a seat next to you.
I'll sneak you in the bag on the way in, and then get an extra suitcase on the way out.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's been like one of my dream trips. I told my fiance, I was like, there is going to be at least one day of wrestling, just so you know. She's not a big wrestling fan. Yeah. She has endured it on my behalf, but like, you know, I said, we're like, if we're planning a trip and like there happens to be like, you know, TJPW or like New Japan or Stardom or DDT or anything, like we're going.
I got to see my first New Japan show in May at Korakuen Hall.
Nice.
And like goosebumps, maybe some tears in my eye. And like, what is it, Tiger Mask 4 was there. And like Togi Makabe came out, Yuji Nagata.
Oh, cool.
And I was just like, I didn't think I would ever see this in person. So it's pretty rad.
That's amazing. So we've talked a lot about Japan, but are there any plans to expand the scope of NOWHOME outside of Japan, or is that gonna, you know, as far as you're concerned, remain the focus of the collection?
I think that's always gonna be a part of the focus. I don't want to say that's the only focus, because I do collect other things even outside of toys that I want to shine some light on. I just feel like, you know, I like to keep things easy on the eyes. And how is that wrestling and maybe tokusatsu fan going to translate to, like, I don't know, maybe that's Japanese too, but like I'm sitting on like a chill little like Lucha Libre collection, which is still in the scope of wrestling. I do have I have like a pretty chunky Mattel and like a decent Hasbro collection, but then that story has been told a little too much for my opinion. Like there's a lot of other things. So a big focus for me this year, I've teased it a little bit. I have like this museum diorama that I'll be showcasing and storytelling out of a little bit more. And as that grows to where I want it to be, there's actually some American artists that I'm fortunate to have a relationship with, where I feel like their story hasn't been told so much. And, you know, I haven't initiated those conversations for some, but I would think, like, why not? Like, let's dive in. I think there's a whole scene of independent toy makers out there that they have their following. They have people that absolutely love what they're doing. And I would love to be a part of not just showing off those things and bringing more eyes to it, but also like maybe giving more dialogue that they're not putting out on their own. So
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some fun things planned.
Speaking of which, we saw that Now Home was at a toy show or at a convention. Are there going to be more convention toy show kind of plans in the future, whether it's just showing stuff or, bringing some of the gift shop to directly to the people?
Yeah, I think you'll see a bit of both, but it's just kind of like finding the right spot. I mentioned earlier, my friend Eric and I, we actually met before I opened the gift shop to the public online. The first public offering I ever did was at a toy show in Brooklyn. It was like Brooklyn Toy Con at where was that? It's like South Brooklyn. I forget the venue, but
Oh yeah,
it was pretty cool.
that was the one that was like around the same time as 5 Points Fest, right?
Yeah, and it was it's like the Brooklyn Navy shipyard.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We
And
almost
that was just kind of like, oh yeah, it was refreshing just to see something new in the in the city. I've wanted to do 5 Points, but my trips to Japan usually end up falling around those dates, so I missed the last one in particular. But me and my friend Eric were actually doing a few of the toy cons in Wayne, New Jersey.
Oh,
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
right in our backyard.
That is couldn't be closer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've done a handful of those and like met some really rad people. I got to meet Zombie Sailor Toys at that show.
Yeah.
Super cool dude. And some other friends now, like just that was probably the first experience of someone coming up to me and being like, "You're the Now Home guy," and that was cool just to like have a nice conversation off the internet in person and just like get nerdy and talk toys and wrestling. And I would love to do more of that. The last show I did was actually at a friend of mine who runs a sneaker shop in the Lower East Side called Extra Butter, and that came about super last minute. I was like, hell yeah, like let's showcase this and put this in an environment that it normally wouldn't be in. Because I think another purpose for me is like maybe bringing these interests of mine to crowds that don't get to see this in their world and see where it mingles and works and what gets people excited. So,
I hope Jesse is planning on doing it again, but I feel like Now Home would be a really good fit for it's not
Toy Pizza Fest.
Toy Pizza Fest. Yeah, I almost called it the other thing. It's not a
It's
convention
not that
anymore.
I haven't been to that one.
Also, shouts
Beacon,
to Extra
right?
Butter.
Yeah, shout out to Extra Butter. Thank you, Bernie.
But yeah, that you'd be a great fit for that that show.
I agree.
Yeah, Jesse's a great guy. Him and Nick, nothing but love for them.
Yeah. So, Japanese wrestling is, we've talked kind of at length about it, but it's still kind of an underserved entity in the figure market. They're the Good Smile 16D figures, and shouts to Junk Shop Dog with the Popey revivals, as well as an occasional Storm collectibles figure. With retro style figures taking off, why do you think the Chara Pro and Magura House style of figures have not really made a comeback in the in kind of like the retro revival market?
I think partly assumption, partly some research I've done. I think that production cost, like we all love toys and we all have our opinions on how they should look, but if you look into those margins, like whether it's a soft vinyl figure in China or Japan or even Mexico, or if it's like with the Chara Pro, it's essentially like a PVC figure. It's a hefty fee, no matter who's picking up the bill. And I feel like the figure collecting community is kind of like we're really fixated on like 6 and 7 inch scale, multiple articulations, where I don't know if that style translates today. I would love to keep collecting them. So on my site, I don't know if you're familiar with Sean. He does KWK toys, like Hasbro retro style. He used to be in contact with people behind the scenes with Chara Pro, aka Mogra House, and apparently there was like interest to expand that line kind of beyond its time. And from my timeline of like dating and documenting, it seems like that line maybe fell off around 2004, 2005, and they switched to just doing pretty much mini big heads, the little bobblehead figures, and I don't know. I would love to see it revived. I think who did it? I think 16D did do like one, maybe like was it a boxing or an MMA figure that kind of resembles that style? But
I know there was like a Nakamura that never came out, or there was like rumors of it towards I want to say towards the end of his New Japan run.
there was a couple prototypes, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just one of those things where people, especially wrestling figure collectors, I think most associate that nostalgia hit with either the LJN or the Hasbro format. Like those are like the formats that were kind of the most prevalent, and that's why you have, you know, whether it's Mitch with, you know, the grapplers and gimmicks, or Zombie Sailor with the heels and faces, and
there was like one like random Hiromu Takahashi that came out that
that was the ringside one, right?
Yeah, the ringside.
You know, you have people that are, you know, kind of stuck in those formats, and I mean for good reason. Those
would be
those
an
figures
awesome Chara Pro, by the way.
But like, I feel like there is an opening there for somebody to kind of come in and continue those Chara Pros, because there are so many iconic. Like I don't know why the one that I think of every time is Zandig, but like when I think of Chara Pros, I think of
so good.
I think of Zandig.
And he's literally like the most ridiculous human being on the planet.
I know. But there are so many. Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you, Matthew. There are so many good Chara Pros out there that like, you know, and to your point, it ended really too soon.
To add to that too, another thought that I had. So on my website, I did like an exhibition really going into depth on that line. It really started as a New Japan Pro Wrestling produced line. Yeah. And then as it grew beyond their contracting and legalities, Chara Pro Character Products like really took its own lane, and then eventually Mogra House was like another subsidy. I feel like New Japan, like maybe Bullet Club Kenny Omega era would have been the seed planted to really get that line popping again. But I don't know. I feel like Super 7 had its shot with New Japan. We only got 2 waves out of it. I think Brian spoke on I don't know if he spoiled it, but like there was a rumor of him still putting out a Jay White figure that was slated for Series 3. And like, I think it's just finding that right company who can also have that dialogue with a Japanese company and be able to do that. Cause like there's so many figures. Nakamura and Tanahashi got their like rookie figures with Chara Pro, but we've never seen their iconic looks. Like there's no high fly flow Tanahashi out there. I would love
what is it? Exactly. Technically young lions, right? They got their young lions figures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like give me LIJ, give me the Bullet Club. Just give me the bullet pose over and over again. That would look so good on the shelf. So we got to put it. We're putting it out there into the ether now.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Maybe it'll happen.
Throwing that positivity out there.
To self-actualize.
There you
go. Well, with that question, this takes us to the end of our interview here. Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We have a tradition on the show where before we plug and send you on your way, we have a customary question that we ask all of our guests. So, Dave, would you like to fulfill your role as this podcast's James Lipton and ask our final question?
Yeah, I'm going to actually bring the microphone to me.
Okay, there we go.
Ooh.
Yeah. Our final question that we ask all of our guests. Matt, what is your favorite and/or strangest piece in your collection? It can be one of each, or it can be both.
Ooh. I'm gonna go with one of each.
All right.
Strangest and weirdest, right?
And favorite.
Strangest,
sorry.
/ weirdest,
Weirdest.
and your
and then favorite.
Yeah.
And or favorite. Okay. There is a Japanese anime and manga known as Obakyu, and it's like a weird white looking ghost. And it has like really big lips. It's always sticking its tongue out, kind of cute, kind of creepy. There is a Japanese artist. I'm spacing out on the name, but when I was over there, I picked up kind of like a reworking of the motif, where instead of the ghost, it's essentially a dick. It's a penis. That's the strangest. And if you give me a second, I'll show it. Oh. I always say the weirder the better. And it's a finger puppet. And I saw it and I was like, oh, how weird. Like, that has to be on the shelf.
Oh my
The weirder
God.
the better.
That's excellent.
That's definitely the strangest of the weirdest. The favorite, oh man, there's too many to pick. You know what? I want to say, when was this? Last October in Massachusetts. I'm forgetting. It's not Salem. It's just outside of Salem. But there was a soft vinyl festival that was actually Jesse from Toy Pizza was there. It was hosted at this silk screening shop. But I guess the main attractions, if you will, was Mori-san, who does Real Head. There was Uamu, and Cord Viper was there, and who else was there? Gokudo was there, and I like hopped on a Greyhound at like 4 a.m. Went up there, waited in line at like 9 in the morning. And if anyone knows anything about the Real Head figures, it's usually like a number popsicle stick for your queue in line. And I've had like a small relationship with Mori, so it was nice to see him in person at the time. I had never actually met him in person, and I have his Chaos Man glow in the dark vinyl, and it's like rubbed red ink all over it.
That's cool.
Hard.
Sounds
I
cool.
can show it. I know some people might not be watching, but maybe listen then watch. I'll show it off real quick. You can see it in that back corner. You guys see that?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is so
I don't know.
cool.
I don't know if my MacBook's getting it right,
Oh,
but
no, we're
that
seeing
figure, yeah. So when you were lining up, they you had a little sneak peek. You can preview the figures before you waited, and everything is hand cast, hand painted in very, very small quantities. And I think I was like the 38th person in line. So I was sweating, just like, oh my God, and probably drank too much coffee. So shakes and everything. I'm like, that's the only thing I want. Like, I can miss out on everything else. And I got the last one.
Nice.
The very last one.
Nice.
So that right now is still like high up on there for my favorites.
Very cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome. And thank you for giving us a little extra peek of the
yeah, for sure.
You'll get the full tour when you're back in the city.
Definitely. So, Matt, before we let you go, please tell our viewers, tell our listeners, where can they find you online? Where can they learn more about NOWHOME?
So, NOWHOMEshop.com is the website where you can find not only the gift shop, but I have a preservation museum section where I've done two big exhibitions, just kind of diving into the psyche and the production behind some figure lines. But if you are on Instagram, it's NOWHOME NYC, at NOWHOME NYC, and that's where I do most of my sharing. I'm very reachable. You can DM me, chat with me. If you if you need any recommendations for Japan, I'm your guy. I'm on TikTok, but that seems to be a touchy one these days. So I've been leaving that alone.
Again, hopefully something that stays there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also NOWHOME NYC.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put links to both the NOWHOME website as well as your Instagram handle in the show notes in the description below. Matt, thank you again so much for joining us, and thank you for doing what you're doing for the toy world. I mean, the amount of niche preservation that is happening in such a small space.
And like City. It's just one of those things where it's just like, it used to be like a if you know thing with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just getting it out there to more people.
Yeah. It's really incredible what you're doing.
No, thank you both for having me on. And it means a lot to me that just to meet you both and like have like-minded interest and to see that what I'm doing means something to anyone. So definitely, I appreciate
you. Dave, with that, send us home.
Yeah. Everybody spread your wings, get out there and learn about something new and some new toys.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.